from minifigures that literally everyone hated to actual mistakes in the instructions for certain sets. These are the biggest mistakes LEGO's ever made. But to start out, let me show you some minifigures adapted from TV shows and movies, because a lot of those definitely belong in this video. Like the first Squidward minifigure from LEGO SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, do I really need to say it? This guy looks super weird. Obviously, we all know what Squidward's head is supposed to look like, and LEGO did make a separate headpiece for him later on. But before that, they put this guy on the shelves. Without that new headpiece, it's hard to even take him seriously, which is probably why the theme's been retired for almost 15 years. But even if the minifigure is accurate to the character, sometimes it still doesn't help, because you end up with ones like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. Obviously, this guy's torso doesn't exactly match the one from the show, and neither do his claws, and neither does his neck, but that's not the point. The headpiece is actually made really well, and honestly, I think that takes it a step beyond weird. This minifigure is just downright scary. So good job making this headpiece, LEGO, but at the same time, you creeped all of us out. Another minifigure that's super accurate to its character, but still looks really weird, is one you might kill me for. Marge Simpson. She looks really good, and I'm not saying I don't like LEGO Simpsons, but let's be real for a minute. That hairpiece is just ridiculous. Like I said, this minifigure looks like it was made for a crossover episode. That's how good it looks. But I just can't get over how obnoxious her hairpiece is. Like, it's almost taller than her torso and head combined. The thing is, though, these three don't even scratch the surface for how weird adapted minifigures can get. Some of them use such strange parts that I'm wondering why LEGO even called them minifigures. A great example is Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Like, what's up with this guy, man? Look at him. He's perfectly gross just like he is in the movies. So good job on that, LEGO. But they didn't use one standard minifigure part for this guy. Now, I will say, LEGO Lord of the Rings has been around for a while, and this Gollum in particular is from 2012. So maybe he looks different now? Nope. No, he does not. In fact, he looks even weirder than before. His legs are chunkier and his faceplate is more gross. So yeah, on paper, he looks really good. But when you take away the Lord of the Rings tinted glasses, all you see is a gross little minifigure. If you thought something like this was only possible in Lord of the Rings though, guess again, because LEGO Star Wars does something pretty similar. Obviously, there are a bunch of weird looking minifigs in this theme, but one in particular who just does not deserve the minifigure title is Sebulba. His 1999 version has been getting clowned on LEGO YouTube for years, and it's for good reason. In the movies, he walks on his hands. So I ask you, LEGO, where are his hands? Not only does this guy look like a fake army man, but he's not even accurate to what we saw on screen. They did make a new one in 2011, which does look a lot better, but I don't know. Does this version deserve to be called a minifigure? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, there's one last questionable minifigure like these I want to talk about. His name is Jeremy, and he's in the Yellow Submarine set for the Beatles. Now, personally, when I think of the Beatles, I think of the four main guys playing the music. So when I looked at this set and saw a weird little guy, I was really thrown off. I'm not the biggest Beatles fan, but I've never seen him anywhere, so I was really confused. But once I found out that he came from an animated movie from 1968, it started to make sense. The movie was called The Yellow Submarine, so the LEGO set isn't named after the song. It's named after this movie. And since Jeremy was in the movie, he made it into the set too. Getting back to the point though, this guy is just like Gollum and Sebulba. He looks nothing like an actual minifigure. So even though his story is interesting, he's still pretty weird. Don't think that the rest of the minifigs in this video are created equal though, because now I'm going to show you some with those insane parts from the intro. One of the most notable ones is Hagrid from LEGO Harry Potter. In the early 2000s, the minifigures for this guy looked really strange, and they still do even in 2024. Hagrid is an English half giant, so obviously he's going to be a pretty big guy, and you can see that clearly in the movies. So when it was time for LEGO to make his minifigure, they had to ask themselves, do we fully downsize Hagrid like we will for Brick 17 years in the future? Or do we make a new part to make him as accurate to the movie as possible? And obviously they decided to make a new part, but it was nothing like they'd ever made before. Obviously we know how a minifigure is made. Head, torso, arms, hands, legs. But for Hagrid, it was head, body, hair. That's it. His entire body was one whole piece, which is something I've only ever seen on Hagrid. It wasn't until 2018 when LEGO finally separated his body into all the right parts. But before that, they made two more that still used this giant body. While I'm talking about LEGO Harry Potter, another minifigure that looks unbelievably weird is Aunt Marge in the Privet Drive Aunt Marge's Visit set. No, dude, not the regular minifigure, the balloon that's floating on the outside of the house. This set is based on the scene from The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Aunt Marge literally turns into a balloon and floats off into the distance. LEGO physically couldn't make this set accurate if they didn't turn Marge into a balloon. So as funny as it is, it makes for one of the weirdest minifigures ever. Obviously, when LEGO wants to make a character accurate like this, sometimes that means the minifigure has to look a lot different. And another perfect example of this is Luffy from the Arlong Park set. The funny thing about LEGO Luffy is that he's normal in literally every set besides this one. For some reason, LEGO just decided that this was the set he should have super long arms in. Every picture on LEGO's website for this set looks really weird with Luffy's long arms, especially this one. They go down so far that they don't even fit in frame. Clearly, giving a minifigure arms like this is a super drastic change. So let me show you one that's so subtle, you might have to look twice just to notice it. These are minifigures of Woody and Jessie from Toy Story. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? Even when you put them next to some other minifigs, everything looks pretty normal until you realize how much taller they are than everyone else. This isn't even the craziest part though. When you turn them around, you'll see 3 stud holes on each leg instead of the 2 that pretty much every other minifigure gets. Looking at these leg pieces literally feels like a fever dream. And Toy Story isn't even the only theme that has them. They're also in the Avatar theme. In the movies, the Na'vi are way taller than humans, and since minifigures are based on humans, it only makes sense to give them these 3-holed legs that Jessie and Woody have. Changing the legs like this definitely makes for a weird minifigure. But what happens when you change something as small as the hands? Minifigure hands have been the same pretty much forever, so you might be struggling to think of what that could even look like. Well, this piece is called a gorilla fist, and funnily enough, it doesn't actually get put in the arm like a regular minifigure hand. Instead, there's a little notch on the bottom of it that the hand is supposed to hold on to. LEGO's only used this piece 4 times, but you better believe it looked weird every single time. The first minifig to get one was Tremor from the Ultra Agents theme, and I mean, come on, man, these hands are huge. The second minifigure is one you might actually remember. Karloff from LEGO Ninjago also had these hands. The third minifigure looks even weirder though. It's the Underminer from the Incredibles theme. On top of having these giant hands, he also had small legs, so this guy's proportions are all out of whack. The fourth and final minifigure is The Thing from the Fantastic Four set that came out this year. But this one is actually weird for 2 reasons. Pretty much every weird minifigure I've shown you in this video has only been weird because LEGO was making them look how they're supposed to, but the opposite happened with The Thing. People have been asking for a big fig for this guy for a really long time, but instead, LEGO just used gorilla hands and called it a day. And honestly, there should be 2 weird minifigures in this set. Mr. Fantastic can stretch just like Luffy, so there's no reason LEGO couldn't have brought those arms from One Piece over to Fantastic Four. It's no secret that LEGO misses the mark sometimes, but this set as a whole was a swing and a miss. Anyways, getting back to the weird minifigures, literally every single one you've seen so far has been an adaptation of a character. Sorry, I just couldn't resist. There are literally so many of them. So now let me show you some that came straight from LEGO HQ. Back in 1989, LEGO made a sub-theme for the space theme called Space Police, and even though it didn't make it past that year, they made Space Police 2 in 1992 and Space Police 3 in 2009. And when they made that third one, I was big into LEGO. I got a few different minifigures that I didn't even look twice at when I was playing with them, but when I look back at them now, these things are super weird. Now, the point of the theme was police catching aliens in space, so it makes sense. But minifigures like the Squid Man, the Frenzy, and the Cranks are out of this world. And remember, none of these guys are from Star Wars or anything like that. They came straight from LEGO's head. Another theme with a similar story is Power Miners. It was only around from 2009 to 2010, but like I said before, I was obsessed with LEGO back then. So of course I had to get a few sets. The story behind this theme is that miners were digging underground to try and fight back against rock monsters. And I think you can guess what I'm gonna say here. LEGO didn't just make small ones like these though. They also made giant ones like Geolix and Tremorox. I guess technically these 2 are big figs, but still, these guys are weird even by big fig standards. Something must have been in the air back then, because these next 2 themes are from the exact same time period, and the minifigs are just as crazy. You might remember the Atlantis theme from 2010. Just like in Power Miners, people were poking around in places they had no business being. Instead, this time, they were looking for pieces of the lost city of Atlantis. What they ended up finding were warriors, guardians, and emperors who were there to protect what the divers wanted to find. But the warriors in particular are some of the craziest minifigure designs I've ever seen. You know how the Nesquik bunny is known for being cursed because of what it looks like under the mask? Well, people need to start bringing up these warrior minifigures because it's so much worse than that. This is what the Hammerhead Warrior's faceplate looks like. This literally belongs in a horror movie. Again, I paid no mind to what these guys looked like when I was a kid, but maybe I should have. They might be why I was having so many nightmares back then. Anyways, the last theme I want to show you from this time period might make you leave a hate comment, but some of the minifigures in the Legends of Chima theme just do not look normal. One in particular who especially creeps me out is Crawley the alligator. Before you kill me, I'm not hating on the design of the minifigure in general. I think it actually looks really good, but what makes this minifigure look so weird is the headpiece. When he looks at you straight on, this guy looks like he's about to do something menacing to you, and even when you take the headpiece off, he still looks like he's gonna do something menacing to you. Honestly, that's the reason a lot of minifigures made it into this video. Their headpiece is just so weird looking. And another one with the exact same problem is in the minifigure series 14 pack. In all fairness, every minifig in here was based on a monster, but out of all of them, there's really only one that weirds me out. The fly. I don't know what it is, but something about a fly's head on a minifigure's body just doesn't sit right with me. Like, there's literally nothing human about this headpiece at all. It's 100% fly. Just like the Demogorgon, this thing is really weird to look at. So I guess I have to congratulate LEGO for being able to creep me out so well. Is in the police car set from 1973. The siren on top was placed there by shoving it in between two studs, which is highly illegal. What makes certain building techniques illegal, you ask? Well, if the technique causes damage to pieces over time, then it's considered illegal. And putting a plate in between two studs like this is one of the easiest ways to ruin a plate piece. So yeah, it's illegal. But LEGO didn't realize this for a long time. Illegal building techniques only made a name for themselves sometime in the last 20 years. So sometimes sets from before then use illegal techniques, like this police car. It was pretty common to find this exact technique in sets from the 70s. Like another set that has it is the Photo Safari set from 1977. This set is another vehicle, and just like the siren on the police car, there's a plate stuck right in between two studs. Since LEGO didn't know this was illegal yet, we kind of have to give them a pass. I mean, the set is literally almost 50 years old, so we can't be too mad. But remember before how I said LEGO breaks these rules a lot? Well, the illegal techniques aren't just in sets from the 70s. You can also find them in modern sets too, like the LEGO Star Wars Mini AT-AT set from 2003. This illegal technique is a little different. Instead of shoving a plate piece in between two studs, this one is made with a stud piece and a round plate. All it is putting the stud in the middle of the four studs on the round plate. That's it. I can't lie, I definitely did this technique a lot when I was a kid. So my stud pieces are probably all cooked by now. But you can find this exact technique on page 20 of the instructions for the Mini AT-AT. The technique was used to make a mini Y-wing bomber to go along with the AT-AT. And this must have been done right before illegal building techniques started gaining traction, because there's no way LEGO would do something like this more recently. Or would they? Well, in the Winter Village post office set from 2011, you can find a third illegal building technique being used to make the roof for one of the buildings. It starts on page 64, where LEGO has you putting the second story on the left side of the post office. Next, on page 65, you make the festive roof that's supposed to go on the side of the second floor. But wait a minute, that part only has a spot for a Technic pin on the side, and there's no such pin in the build for the roof. Well, this is where our illegal technique comes in. If you look closely at the roof build, you'll see that LEGO had you make it with a modified 1x1 with studs on four sides. And when you look back at the instructions, you'll see that the roof was only made using 3 of these studs. If you haven't put it together yet, that fourth unused stud is supposed to go in the Technic hole, which is highly illegal. This set was made in 2011 though, so maybe you're thinking that these illegal building techniques still weren't that known yet. Well, allow me to burst your bubble. Because in the Voltron set from 2018, the literal first step in the instructions has you putting a stud into a Technic hole, just like how you were supposed to do in the post office set. Like I said, this technique is highly illegal, and considering this set came out in 2018, there's no denying it. The designers knew exactly what they were doing with this one. Something you might not have known though is that the subscribe button actually changes colors when you click it. I swear, go try it out and let me know if it works for you. Anyways, the next broken rule I want to show you has to do with instructions. Obviously, we need instructions to build most LEGO sets, so it's only natural to think that there's never any mistakes in them, right? Well, not exactly. Instructions have mistakes in them all the time, but some of them are way worse than others, like this one in the LEGO Star Wars Battle of Endor set from 2009. This is very obviously a plate piece with 3 studs, but because of where the arrows are pointing, it looks like they're telling you to connect it to 4 studs instead. This is one of the most famous LEGO errors ever, so odds are you've seen it before. Another one that's pretty popular is the floating sticker in the Spider-Jet vs. Venom mech set. On page 42, you're supposed to add a sticker to the front of the cockpit window, as you can see here. But if you look at the front of the ship, it seems like the designer forgot to delete the sticker before they published the page. This is where the sticker ends up once you attach the window piece to the set, as you can see on page 45. But it definitely wasn't supposed to be there before that. Stuff like this isn't so common in LEGO, but there's one type of error in particular that people find all the time, and it's kind of similar to the floating sticker. Sometimes when you're building a set, a piece will be on your build that LEGO hasn't told you to put there yet. I just bought the one-piece windmill village hut set, peak fiction by the way, and I love it, but pages 62 to 68 were a little confusing. On page 62, you're supposed to build this beam type thing and then just put it on the front of the set, but look at this spot right here. On the next page, you're supposed to put a sticker on this tile and then put it on front, but then this thing is just here. Like, what? I flipped back and forth like 3 times trying to figure out what was going on before I just skipped ahead and realized they put that top part there early. It's a super small mistake, but when you're building the set, something like this can be really confusing. Not gonna lie though, this is nothing compared to what happened with the instructions for the LEGO Harry Potter Dobby's release set. That one was just too funny. I say that because it's not like what happened with the One Piece set. Instead, LEGO just completely used the wrong hairpiece for the only minifigure in the set. This one came out back in 2002, so the instructions online got fixed, except for the fact that they didn't. Now, Lucius has the right hairpiece, but he doesn't have a cape. I mean, the hairpiece mistake is one thing, but he literally had a cape in the first version. So how did it end up deleted in the second one? This one is super funny, and I know we're all in a good mood right now, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to ruin it, because it's time to talk about stickers. Yeah, I know, none of us like them, I get it, but there's a broken rule here, just like with everything else, so just hear me out. I'm not sure exactly when LEGO made this decision, but somewhere along the road, they decided that stickers shouldn't ever go across more than 1 brick. I can kind of understand it, I guess, but they still did it in the airport set from the town theme. The set only comes with like 5 stickers, but see this one with the arrows on it? Well, this is where it goes in the set, and clearly it's going across 3 different bricks, so that rule definitely got broken. The funny thing about this rule though is that it can actually make some stickers look really ugly depending on what they are. Most of them are in the clear, but when it comes to the Gringotts Bank set from Harry Potter, there's a big problem front and center. Literally. Because of the 1 sticker per brick rule, the sticker for Gringotts was separated into 2. And I mean, just look at it when it's on the set. I know I've talked about it in a different video, but this is downright ugly. I guess it just goes to show how hard LEGO tries not to break certain rules. Like, they really don't want to break this sticker one. And as much as I want to believe that LEGO refuses to make anything related to weapons, military, or 18+ stuff in general, it just isn't true. And there's lots of evidence to prove it. Exhibit A, LEGO Star Wars. Now, I know this one is kind of a cop-out. None of the weapons or ships in this theme exist in real life, so it's not like LEGO's making actual weapons, but I still need to touch on it. LEGO openly made blasters that kill people on impact, swords made of light that can cut people in half, and space stations capable of blowing up entire planets. This doesn't look too good on paper. I hear your point though. None of this is avoidable if you're gonna make anything from LEGO Star Wars. You're right, but clearly LEGO gets to pick and choose what they want to make for this theme. So answer me this. If they can make anything from Star Wars into LEGO, why did they make a minifigure of Anakin right after he was burned alive on Mustafar? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I love LEGO Star Wars just as much as the next guy, but this minifigure clearly breaks the 18+ rule. Now that that's out of the way, it's time for Exhibit B. LEGO Indiana Jones. Unlike Star Wars, there's no argument for this one. Indiana Jones was based on real life, on Earth, with human beings, and LEGO broke the no weapons or military stuff rule all the time with this theme. First of all, literally everyone has guns, so there goes the weapons rule. Second of all, LEGO made a bunch of different military vehicles, most of them being fighter planes. The first ones they made were in this set from 2009, but if you think they wouldn't do this nowadays, guess again, because here's another fighter plane in a set from 2023. And look, the words fighter plane are literally in the name of the set. But third of all, they knew exactly what they were doing. Check out this box for set 7682. One of the guys is literally shooting their gun, and this is on the box. Like I said, they knew exactly what they were doing. But if this isn't enough evidence for you, allow me to present Exhibit C, the LEGO Osprey V22. We all know the story with this one. LEGO made it a few years ago and was gonna release it, but then decided not to. But do you know why? because it would have broken the military vehicle rule. And sure, you can say this technically didn't break the rule because they never released it, but this set was release ready, to the point where people were able to get them in hand and sell them with the box, instructions, and everything else. So in my opinion, this definitely breaks the military rule. But let me know what you think in the comments. Alright, this next rule is actually a little different than the ones I've been talking about. This one isn't unwritten at all, and is actually very illegal to break. Safety. When you make and sell toys, you need to make sure that they're safe for the target audience. And in LEGO's case, that means they have to be safe for kids, which is a lot easier said than done. When something they make ends up not being safe, they have to do something that you've heard a bunch of different companies do: recall it. Luckily for LEGO, they've only ever had 3 recalls, but they were all pretty dangerous. First, there was a rattle that parents reported became a vacuum and choked their kids. Second is the Explore Super Truck, which had really pointy axles. These axles could be detached pretty easily, so combine that with the pointiness, and it's a really bad recipe. The third and final recall is the Power Functions remote controller. Apparently, LEGO didn't do too well with cooling, because when you put batteries in this thing, it got hot. I'm not sure just how hot, but it was hot enough that they had to recall it. So I guess it was pretty high up there. Moving on from that though, I want to leave these next few items up to you. I can't tell if they really break any rules, so I want to know if you think they do. And if they do, what rule do they break? The first one is this hack with a LEGO tire. Apparently, if you take this big tire and flip it inside out, you can use it as a cauldron. I don't know if this would fall under illegal building techniques or what, but this feels like it has to be breaking some sort of rule. The second one is in the Gas Balloon Village Attack set, and if you look at the gas, you can see that it's being held up with tensegrity. Now, this is a perfectly legal building technique, so it's definitely not that. But I can't think of a single official LEGO set that uses this technique besides this one. So let me know, is this breaking a rule, or is it just sick? The last one is in the Disney Castle set, and apparently there's a part of this set that uses a highly illegal building technique. On page 115, you can see some 1x2 bricks with half-size Technic pins in them being placed. And if we go to the next page, we can see LEGO telling you to attach tiles to those half-size Technic pins. This isn't the alleged illegal part though. That comes on page 117. LEGO has you make these little structures on top of the castle and attach them to the pins. And apparently, this is the illegal technique. According to Oscar Cedarwall on the Brick Nerd website, attaching these structures on top of the plates puts a lot of stress on them, and will slowly but surely break them over time. I'm not sure I'm buying it though. Then LEGO's always wanted to add augmented reality to their sets, and for some other reason, they just can't seem to accept that no one wants it. And I say that because they've been trying to do this since 2009. Here's the timeline. 2009. LEGO starts adding what they call digital boxes into stores, or as some people like to call them,
that big computer screen thingy.
How it worked was you held up the box of any LEGO set in front of this camera, and all of a sudden it would come to life in front of your eyes. Honestly, not a bad idea, but not good enough, because they're gone. At least according to Google AI. 2011, Life of George. This one is absolutely not cool, and neither are the rest of them, so don't get your hopes up. If you've ever wanted someone to judge what you make with LEGO, to the point where you'd literally get a score based on how good your build was, Life of George is perfect for you. First, you had to buy the set, then you had to download the app on your phone for anything to make sense, and once you did, it still didn't really make any sense. The whole point was this guy George asked you to build stuff that got more difficult every time. You'd build what you saw in the app, scan it, and get a score from George. That's it. 2012, Life of George again. I'm serious. Here's number 1 in 2011 and number 2 in 2012. Insane. 2014, LEGO Fusion. Basically just Life of George all over again. Except this time, you won't cry because George rated your build a 1 out of 10. Instead of that, you can make some sort of LEGO town, I guess. They only made 4 sets for Fusion, so it's not like you're able to make some giant metropolis. But yeah, instead of scanning and rating, it's scanning and whatever you want to call this. 2015, subscribe or you'll flop like all these LEGO products. Wait, sorry, I don't know how that got in there. 2015, Nexo Knights. Okay, I lied before. This one's kind of cool. LEGO had a really big vision for this theme, even though they had no proof it would actually work. But that didn't stop them from building up an entire universe with heroes, villains, and lore that I can't even explain in a 20-minute video. Along with all this, they also made a mobile game to go along with the story. Unlike everything else I've talked about, you didn't need to scan anything to be able to play the game, which was nice. But the thing that made Nexo Knights so cool material was this thing called an app brick. It was made with a special carbon-infused plastic that let it conduct electricity from your finger to a touchscreen. I know that sounds confusing, so here's a video of it. Think of it like a Lego stylus in the shape of a brick. Oh, and you could also scan these things called Nexo shields and unlock powers in the game. Can't forget about the scanning. Okay, you get the idea. Lego likes augmented reality, but like I said before, they refuse to accept actual reality. So I have like 6 more I have to go over. Let's get this over with. 2017, Lego AR Studio. Basically Fusion, but instead you can put actual sets into a digital world. 2018, Lego AR Playgrounds. You put a set in front of your phone camera and watched it turn into a mobile game that was made specifically for that set. 2019, Lego Hidden Side. A spooky, scary Lego theme that had scannable sets that turned into mysteries, ghost hunts, and other stuff like that. 2019 again, Lego Wear x Snapchat AR. A pop-up clothing store with no clothes in it, because to see the store you had to scan this brick-built snap code which took you to a virtual Lego store with security, a DJ, clothes, and it was all just to promote clothes on their website. Wow. 2021, Lego Mythica AR Experience. Scannable AR activation points only at Legoland Windsor that pop giant builds out of portals or something. 2021 again, Lego Video, spelled like this though. Scannable figures that turn into music videos on your phone that could also be posted on the app's native social media and apparently was supposed to be TikTok for Lego minifigures. Okay. That was a lot. And I know after hearing about it, you probably think Lego only fails at new things, but you're wrong. Very wrong. Just like how they failed with augmented reality, they fail at making regular sets all the time. And for some reason, it's especially when they make sets in a specific theme for a specific planet in a galaxy far, far away. Hoth, the winter planet in The Empire Strikes Back. There's an entire sub-theme in LEGO Star Wars dedicated to Episode 5. And since 2007, LEGO's made 9 sets based on something we saw on Hoth. Notice anything about them? Yeah, I did too. They're all garbage. But this isn't specific to the Episode 5 sub-theme. LEGO released the Assault on Hoth set in 2016 as part of the Ultimate Collector series. You know, the theme known for unbelievably gigantic sets that take literal days to put together, and somehow this is a part of it. The entire LEGO community absolutely fried this set when it came out. Jay of Jay's Brick Blog even called it a dud and said that this so-called UCS set makes him feel irrationally angry on behalf of longtime LEGO Star Wars fans. And this is a guy that never has anything negative to say about anything, so you know it's really bad if even he's speaking up. The only LEGO Star Wars set that even came close to getting this much hate, and as a result completely flopped on the business end, was the First Order ATST. But before you see what it looks like, here's a picture of what a First Order ATST looks like in the movies. Okay, got that in your head? Now here's the Lego set. Bro's barber did him wrong. No, but seriously, this was probably the dumbest thing LEGO could have done for this set. For one, it came out in 2018, 3 whole years after the First Order was seen on screen for the first time. And since then, LEGO hadn't released a regular ATST for this new empire yet. So releasing one with no head first is a decision I can't even wrap my head around. And clearly this guy can't either. In all fairness, there is a scene in the final movie where BB-8 gets in an ATST shootout and the one he's piloting gets its head blown off. But since LEGO never released a regular First Order ATST set, I'm with the people on this one. This thing sucks. And I don't agree with the people too often, because to be honest, people online will literally complain about anything. But another time they were absolutely right was the Angry Birds theme. Now, before you cut my head off, I know how influential Angry Birds was for mobile games. I was there, I played it on my dad's phone, but there's a key word I purposefully left out when I told you about the theme just now. Movie. LEGO didn't make a theme for the game, they made a theme for the Angry Birds movie, which came out in 2016. And at that point, Angry Birds had low-key fallen off a while ago. Back when the movie came out, I thought it was a dumb idea, but since I was so addicted to Pokemon Go, I didn't even realize LEGO made a theme for it. The movie itself was a bad attempt at trying to revive a dead name, and for some reason, LEGO tried to ride the non-existent hype train. People online were just as confused as I am, like our boy Jay, who made the great point that LEGO had always been pretty on point with their licenses, and only made themes with major pillars of pop culture. And keep in mind, this is way before literally every set coming out was licensed. So out of all things, the Angry Birds movie just didn't make sense. Oh, and by the way, all 6 sets for this theme were released at the same time. And, well, I'll let the numbers speak for themselves. I can't fully blame LEGO for this flop though, because in reality, it isn't even really that bad, especially when you compare it to what happened with Shell. LEGO and Shell were partnered for 48 years before LEGO ended their partnership, and this was definitely the right move. In 2014, LEGO was getting an insane amount of hate online, most of which was from a company called Greenpeace, and it was actually really valid. Shell has a pretty bad history of oil spills and just mistreating the environment in general, and in 2014, they wanted to start drilling for oil in Alaska. Greenpeace is a group of non-profit organizations that try and help the climate in any way they can besides violence. And when they saw that LEGO was still partnered with Shell, they decided to say something. What followed were a bunch of news articles covering Greenpeace telling LEGO to end the partnership, and then a bunch more articles about the partnership ending. But what I'm getting at here is that not every flop is LEGO's fault. They had been partnered with Shell for a really long time, and in the end, it failed because of what Shell did, not LEGO. So when the people who run things like the Angry Birds movie say all the right things, LEGO ends up with a flop that should have never even happened. To be honest, I don't even know how half these companies convinced LEGO to make a theme for their IP. They made the Avatar theme 13 years after the first movie came out. Flop. They made the Cars theme 5 years after the first movie came out. Flop. They made the Fortnite theme 6 years after the game came out, and somehow that one didn't flop. And after looking at all of this, I've just realized that I'm completely wrong. Nobody's convincing LEGO of anything. They actually just thought Avatar would be as popular in 2022 as it was in 2009. Alright, I take it back. LEGO is definitely capable of making stupid decisions. And you know what? This is a perfect segue into the next flop. Technic figures. Obviously, minifigures have been one of the best moves LEGO's ever made. And they did this all the way back in 1979. So in 1986, they tried to do it again. Only this time, it was in a theme that was famously known for being aimed more towards adults and focused on the builds rather than stuff kids would probably like. I'm sure you know where this is going. The first Technic figures were in a sub-theme called Arctic Action, which actually has a pretty good resale value, but that's only because it's 80s LEGO. After this, they went on to be in way too many sets. Like, way too many. They kept making these figures all the way up until 2001, and the last set that ever got one was the Technic forklift, and I think we can all agree that that's for the best. I can't understand why LEGO would go for an idea like this, though. If minifigures can be so successful, then why can't some other figures do the same thing? It makes sense, but sometimes they need to know where the line is. Clearly, LEGO's tried a lot of different things to make sure they stay relevant, and I haven't even talked about their toys and cereal boxes, the first theme with coding, the Slicer theme that was basically Bionicle's failed older brother. If you want to hear about that stuff, go watch my video on top secret LEGO items. But what I'm getting at is that they've done a lot, and what I've covered so far doesn't even scratch the surface. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of videos on YouTube about edible LEGO stuff, but what people never say in those videos is that every actual LEGO product they use failed miserably. It goes deeper than that though. LEGO has a theme called Gear that they've been making random stuff for since 1971, but there's a sub-theme in Gear called Housewares, and this is where we get into the flops. On websites like Brick Economy, you can filter every product in any theme by value. And in themes like LEGO Star Wars and LEGO Marvel, the prices for certain things get unimaginably high. Obviously, we know that LEGO Star Wars and Marvel are the furthest thing from a flop, and these numbers prove it. But when you sort everything in Housewares by value, I mean, let's be for real, nobody wants this stuff. Yeah, on paper, it'd be cool to have a timer that looks like a minifigure's head. But in practice, the Housewares theme is a complete failure. This is another reality that LEGO can't seem to accept. They just keep making stuff for this theme year after year. So at one point or another, you have to ask yourself, what is LEGO actually trying to do? Clearly, they have a really good thing going for them with plastic bricks and video games, but for some reason, they just can't seem to stop themselves from trying to break into as many industries as they can. And you can see this at pretty much every step they've taken. They went from wooden toys to plastic, fully assembled toys to ones that had to be built with bricks, sets to minifigures, things based on real life to complete fantasy. But if you notice, everything I just said made LEGO successful beyond their wildest dreams. Have you noticed that most sets these days feel like decorations instead of toys? Well, if you did, you wouldn't be alone. And this is one of the main things that people are upset about. LEGO really made a name for themselves in 1979 when they introduced the castle, space, and pirate themes. These themes were exactly what the people wanted. Cool looking, high quality toys that you can play with forever and not have to worry about them breaking. The castles had working drawbridges and turrets at the top. The spaceships had operational cockpits that felt real. And the pirate ships were just downright incredible. These three themes really put LEGO on the map, but these days they've basically been phased out, and those play functions that gave LEGO a fan base have fallen to the wayside. They do still make some sets with play functions, like the LEGO Mario Bowser set, but for the most part, people just feel like everything is a cash grab, since all they really make anymore are licensed sets. This has been a very slow fall from grace that not everyone is actually upset about, but something you would have noticed more recently is the disappearance of chrome pieces. You used to be able to find these things in a bunch of different themes, but the most popular one was LEGO Star Wars. In the movies, lightsaber hilts are a shiny silver, and since LEGO wanted to make their toys as accurate as possible, they coated every lightsaber in a shiny chrome paint. Now, the reason we don't have chrome pieces like this anymore is actually pretty valid. The paint quality wasn't very good, so not long after you got the piece, it would start shipping off until it was completely gone. But here's my thing with this, LEGO stopped making these pieces sometime between 2005 and 2010, and by this time, they had a ton of money. So they could have easily found a higher quality chrome paint to replace the old one, and keep the lightsabers, armor, and everything else the way it should be. Obviously, this didn't happen, and as a result, LEGO kind of just uses whatever color they want for gold and silver. Now, even though this is technically an upgrade in quality, it's a downgrade in looks. But if you think LEGO's immune to quality problems, I'm about to burst your bubble. Over the years, they've made super small changes to a ton of different molds. But one that a lot of people have noticed is the change to minifigures' legs. They've made lots of tiny tweaks over the years, but one thing they can't seem to fix is the heels cracking over time. The cracks are never big, and it's not like they make the minifig useless or anything, but they're definitely there, and they're definitely a problem. The thing is though, it can happen just from leaving a minifigure on two studs for too long. A bunch of different people have noticed this over the years, so if you plan on putting any minifigures on display, make sure you use a panel piece instead of a baseboard or something. It will literally be the difference between your minifigure breaking or not. Another downgrade that's made people pretty upset recently is the rise of stickers. People are saying it feels like every piece with a cool design these days is a sticker, and honestly, they're not wrong. There's literally an entire theme that's known for this too, the Speed Champions theme. In theory, this theme should be super popular. A bunch of cheap LEGO cars? Sign me up. But because of how many stickers are in these sets, people want nothing to do with them. It's not just the fact that stickers are taking over though. LEGO has quite literally swapped out pieces with prints on them for stickers. This is the only picture I was able to find of this, but I really can't think of why LEGO would want to do this. They've been cutting corners for a lot longer than we thought though, and it's super obvious when you look at the evolution of the parrot piece from the pirate theme. Like I said before, this theme helped put LEGO on the map, and when you look at this parrot, you can definitely tell it's from back in the day. Wait, what'd you say? LEGO made this parrot in 2017, not 1979? No, there's no way that's true. Oh my god, it is true. Wait, so then what'd the parrot from 1989 look like? There's actually no way. Are you serious? My bad, guys. Apparently, I was completely wrong. I went into this thinking the tie-dye looking parrot was the vintage one, and the painted one was more recent, but it's literally the exact opposite. See, this is what I mean. LEGO just up and took away the paint that made the parrot look like a parrot. I absolutely hate when they just take away stuff like this, but honestly, this is pretty mild compared to what I'm about to talk about next. Clearly, LEGO has no problem taking away small details like this, but unfortunately, it doesn't matter if it's paint on a parrot or the one thing that saved LEGO from bankruptcy in 2001. If you know this story, then you already know where I'm going with this. But the next downgrade is the complete removal of the Bionicle theme. This is a theme that every Gen Z kid like me grew up on. It was Bionicle and LEGO Star Wars. But what I didn't know when I was a kid was that LEGO was about to go out of business before I was even born. They hadn't been doing very well in the mid to late 90s, and the one thing that saved them was the Bionicle theme. Not only was it one of the most successful LEGO themes ever, but it went further than that. It got its own TV show on Cartoon Network, its own video games, random merch pieces, and way more. But if all of this is true, then where is it? Where is this theme that people love so much? Well, to tell you the truth, it's been gone since 2010, and we don't even know why. LEGO never gave us an actual reason for discontinuing Bionicle, so to us, it just looks like they gave up on it. They tried to bring it back in 2016, but it just wasn't the same, and they ended up discontinuing it again. Sorry to tug at your heartstrings like this. I know Bionicle has a special place in all of our hearts, but it had to be said. LEGO getting rid of Bionicle was one of the biggest downgrades the company ever made. They were making a lot of changes around this time, and according to a lot of people, this is when LEGO started to feel lifeless. This was the beginning of the death of LEGO that people talk about today. People don't feel this way just because they canceled Bionicle though. It comes down to even the smallest details, like what LEGO puts on boxes. Back in the day, it was super common to see alternate builds on the box of whatever set you were buying. The whole point of it was to inspire creativity. creativity and show people that the set they were building didn't have to be built the way it was in the instructions. LEGO was literally telling people to buy the set, build it one way, take it apart, and do it all over again. But nowadays, the only time we see different builds on boxes is if that's the entire point of the set. They started making 3-in-1 sets not too long ago, and I'm not hating on the idea or anything, but I can see why people read so deeply into this detail. One person on a LEGO forum website said, nowadays, there are no alternate backgrounds on backsides of boxes. Instead, there are some teaser pictures of other sets, and sometimes a message saying collect them all. Isn't it rather obvious? They were hinting at the fact that LEGO replaced alternate builds with other sets to get people to spend more money. But the outside of the box isn't the only thing that's lost some life. The inside of LEGO boxes used to look completely different. When you open up a LEGO box today, all you'll find are poly bags and sticker sheets, but this isn't even close to what they used to look like. Instead of the box just being a vessel for the pieces, LEGO made the inside look incredible. When you open it up, it almost felt wrong to take anything out of it. Everything was on display, so if somehow you didn't know what you were buying, you'd know as soon as you opened up the box. When I look at stuff like this, all I can think is that LEGO used to care more, but it goes further than this. Along with alternate builds and good presentation, LEGO also used to include base plates in sets. You know, those giant 32 by 32 plates that we hardly see anymore. They were in sets for loads of different themes, but one that had a ton of them was the town theme. But even then, when LEGO did make base plates for other themes, they made sure it matched. Like, look at these raised base plates. These are clearly meant for something way different than town, probably castle or something. But notice how there's not only a whole environment, but it has a 3D design that's basically begging you to build on it. I can't even remember the last time LEGO included a raised base plate in a set. To be honest, I probably wasn't even around for it. Something I'm more than old enough to remember though is the slow disappearance of glow-in-the-dark pieces. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I build every LEGO set that comes out, but I genuinely can't remember the last time I saw a glow-in-the-dark piece in any newer set. I look at the new ones on the LEGO website pretty often, so I feel like if they did use glow-in-the-dark pieces, they'd really advertise it, like how they did for the Monster Fighters theme. It's a failed theme from 2012, but I'm gonna play a commercial LEGO made for it and point something out to you. Obviously, this theme is supposed to be spooky, but notice how they made the lighting all dark to make the glow-in-the-dark pieces pop? The vampire in the castle glows in the dark, another random vampire glows in the dark, and a piece on the flying train glows in the dark too. They really wanted you to see that this set had a lot of glow-in-the-dark pieces, and even though the theme failed, the concept is still really cool. It usually takes LEGO a while to phase things out like this. Like, most of the downgrades in this video have been pretty gradual, but for some reason, LEGO loves making the stuff in superhero themes worse. Doesn't matter if it's Marvel or DC. So for the rest of this video, let me show you just how bad it's gotten and how fast it happened. I'll start off with minifigures. This is a Sam Wilson Captain America minifigure from 2021, and I think we can all agree that it looks sick. Yeah, it'd be annoying to put the stickers on his wings, but if you get it right, he comes out looking amazing. If you aren't caught up in the MCU, Sam Wilson is here to stay as Captain America, and since we got this minifigure in 2021, LEGO's made one more. And, I mean, just look at it. This is one of the only times I'll say this, but bring back the stickers, LEGO. They look so much better than the plain pieces. This is what I was saying in the intro, with LEGO making a minifigure look super sick, then ugly a few years later. I mean, this is literally a 3-year difference right here. I promise I'd show you both Marvel and DC though. So take a look at this Poison Ivy minifigure from 2017. Again, just like the first Sam Wilson minifig, this one looks really good. The prints, the hairpiece, the little skirt, it's all incredible. But now look at what they did in 2019. Like, let's be so for real. This is insane. This literally looks like I'm comparing a minifigure from 2002 to 2020. But no, the ugly one was released 2 years after the cool one. The craziest part about this though is the minifigure doesn't even have to be small to get downgraded, like Ant-Man in the superhero airport battle set from 2016. Making Ant-Man a giant minifigure is a pretty funny move from LEGO. He was giant in the movie, so if it's gonna happen in LEGO, then it makes sense for him to look like a minifig. I know for a fact that a lot of people appreciated this, but look at what they did to him in a set from this year. I mean, the pictures just speak for themselves. Clearly, this version of Ant-Man is way less fun than the minifigure version from 2016. But unfortunately, LEGO's gotten lazy with the actual design of certain sets. Let me show you what I mean. This is an Iron Man helmet set from 2020, and even though it only has 480 pieces, it still looks pretty accurate to the real Iron Man helmet. Now, there are technically a bunch of different Iron Man suits, but LEGO just recently made a set for the Mark IV suit. And look at how weird this thing looks. Doesn't the mouth shape just creep you out? I like the idea of showing more than just the helmet, but if the literal face of the set is gonna come out looking like this, you might as well just use more pieces and make it more expensive. I do have to say though, even through all of these downgrades, I still absolutely love LEGO. I just want some things to be different. But what downgrade surprised you in this video? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.